What's up, everybody? It's Kevin Kelm with Wrestlezone.com, one of the world's leading sources for sports entertainment. Or that's a word that aggravates wrestling fans, doesn't it? It's just me. It's just you. We're live, and your questions are going to pop up on screen right there. You see it right there. Ask us anything. There's a free flowing show. Just me, you, and the burning questions in your mind. Do you have a fantasy booking bubble? I'll pop it. All right. Do you hear about a rumor or a theory? Who is Retribution? Where are they doing SummerSlam? Is this wrestler coming back? Is this wrestler wearing a mask? I'm following all of it. Of course, we're following all of it at Wrestlezone.com, and I'll have the answers for you in real time. If you haven't checked it out, check out our podcast. We do multiple episodes every week, 4 episodes of the WrestleZone Daily with me every single week. Fridays, we also have 2 Dynamite Dudes with Attitudes strictly about AEW. I'm burping because I'm a professional. Also, we just dropped very professional interviews, though, with Ariane Andrews. You may know her as Cameron from Total Divas. We just dropped that today. Eric Bischoff is on the podcast as well, and you can also catch those over on our podcast as well, that is available on YouTube and Facebook. So plenty of questions to jump into, and I want to answer yours. I see a couple popping up right now. If you're with us on YouTube as well, you guys can fire for questions. I'll see it all in real time. Don't be afraid to share the link with your buddies as well. Chris Brewer comes in here and he goes, how long will the Retribution storyline go before revealing who they are? Who do you think? Well, this was a big topic on our Raw post show, which you guys can check out. That is up right now, as up on Facebook, YouTube, all that good stuff. So, Chris, it's very interesting. WWE's done these kind of big, all-encompassing faction angles before, and it is something I think a lot of hardcore fans, not even just casual fans, want to see. It is the number one thing that I see fans asking for all the time. Is this group going to invade this show? Is this show going to be invaded by that group? I would love if there was an invasion. People love the nihilistic destruction of the built-up statues, right? It's odd. We're now 2 weeks into it. They made their first kind of sprinkling of different things on Raw, not this week, but the week before. Then we actually got to see a lot more of them in the ring, although they didn't exactly physically attack people. They were menacing and drove people away. No, they did attack someone at ringside, right? And now we're getting information from multiple sources that says that the people you're seeing perform as Retribution under masks, looking, like the Antifa rioters, even though people say it's not a political thing, that those performers may not actually be the people that are revealed. A lot of people are indicating that Donovan Dijakovic and Tommaso Ciampa from WWE NXT could be behind the group, as their social medias have become quite cryptic and alluding to it. So obviously that's something to play for hardcore fans. How long will that go on? I don't know. I would assume that some big impact will be made at SummerSlam. That is my assumption. There is nothing to indicate me by sources I've asked or people we've reported with or anything like that. But it all kind of lines up with it, especially after last night's Monday Night Raw, where they did some stuff. They flipped over a car. They broke some glass. Some people thought it was kind of goofy, but I really think it's building up to something else down the line. And down the line is just a few weeks from now at SummerSlam. A bigger splash, I think, would be made there than doing it on television. But some people would say it'd be more interesting and more beneficial to WWE to do it on TV and maybe pop a rating. But this is a group that's built on surprises. When are they going to show up? What are they going to do? Kind of keep you on the edge of your seat type element, which I think some fans who watch every week find it much more compelling. So Joe is texting in here saying maybe it's 205 Live. Joe Zerflo. I wouldn't be surprised if some of the guys from 205 Live were involved. A great theory I've heard about this was on Busted Open, SiriusXM. Shout out to them. Bully Ray saying that maybe everyone in the group represents a certain underrepresented wrestler, a wrestler who creative didn't have anything for him, or a certain group that isn't represented on television in the sense of diversity, or all these different things, that they're a mixture of different people that feel underrepresented. So there'd be something there. I do want to bring this up. Steven Chambers, big fan of the show. Thank you so much for watching so much, Steve. He says, awesome to hear about Ring of Honor coming back next month and NWA having a pay-per-view next month. Any word on the card for the NWA pay-per-view? So I'll cover both those stories. Ring of Honor confirmed to WrestleZone today that they will indeed be returning to TV production in the state of Maryland. They did not say where they are producing it. Their parent company, Sinclair Broadcasting, is based in the Baltimore area, so it is not a surprise that they're running there. Things are fairly safe in Maryland. They don't have nearly as, the Mid-Atlantic is doing a better job right now, though, you have some big cities there. With the COVID outbreak, it's serious. They did say they're going to take the necessary testing and precautions to do this. There will be no fans present and only essential staff. So that's how they're going to be taping their television shows. When those shows will start airing, we don't know. They've been doing kind of like best ofs for the past few months. The last time they were on television was in mid-March for their anniversary show in Vegas. So this is something they need to do. It will certainly be interesting to see who's involved in that show. They have done some changes. They've done some web content, and they've actually done some storyline stuff in the web content. Brody Lee left the Villain Enterprises. So it'll be interesting what they can do. I mean, they're a brand that really suffered a lot, but they were a full stop thing. Like MLW did that. They were completely full stop. New Japan Pro Wrestling did that, and they came back last month. So it'll be interesting to see how this is pulled off, and I'm rooting for them. In terms of the NWA, they announced a partnership with the United Wrestling Streaming Network. Billy Corgan's led NWA will be doing content with Championship Wrestling from Hollywood and Championship Wrestling from Arizona. And in the content, I'm messing up. Marquez, I always mess up his first name, who's been involved with Championship Wrestling from Hollywood for many, many years and was involved with the NWA Power Show, is saying that they're going to be able to bring in a lot of different independent wrestlers to do the shows, even name dropping, Game Changer, I believe, and definitely mentioning Chicago's freelance wrestling. So it'll be interesting to see how they do that concept. The concept of it will be almost like the old TNA original pay-per-views every single week. What the price point will be is not exactly clear, but if there is something behind a subscription model that could work, if you're going to get this on traditional pay-per-view, it might not be something I think a modern fan is prepared to pay for every single week, depending on what the matches are. We'll continue to follow that situation as it comes. All right, let's get into more questions. Keep firing them off. I'm going to try and keep up with them as much as I can. Chanel Nels Conley says, where is SummerSlam going to be held this year? Well, this is something we've been following now for the past few weeks. We understand through WrestleVotes, a scooping Twitter account, which has been very, very accurate in the past, that WWE indeed will have the SmackDown before SummerSlam, SummerSlam itself, and the Raw after SummerSlam outside of the Performance Center, and it'll occur somewhere in the Northeast. Now, you may have heard the rumors about Atlantic City, New Jersey. That is something we've reported on it as well, and how this event could be held. I can say that we don't know the exact location, but I do know that some semblance of the entertainment business is trying to return in some way in the greater New York area. Specifically, you have comedy shows occurring in parks now, stand-up comedy shows, different things like that. But there is still very strict regulations there, and that is a state that was hit the hardest, the New York, New Jersey area, by the COVID outbreak in the United States. It'll be interesting to see how WWE does the show. If fans will be present is another thing, and how you'll control that. From what we know, it will be in the Northeast. Where it'll be in the Northeast, I don't know. Will this be in Stamford, Connecticut, where WWE already has their headquarters? We don't know. We just know at this time that some very valid sources are saying the show will not be at the Performance Center, if not at the Performance Center completely. Now, this could go backwards. Obviously, it's a very fluid situation. So when we know more, we'll let you know. We can tell you, though, that NXT TakeOver will not be leaving Florida from what we know on that show. So we know that show will be there. Other questions kind of keeping up here. Bit Minigan saying, was the attack on Ric Flair, woo, by Randy Orton planned? Bit, I can tell you that it looked like it was. That was last night's Monday Night Raw. That was the end of it. What did you think of it? A searing promo from both sides. Ric Flair saying, I'm not the Ric Flair I used to be. I just want to be out in the ring with you. I want to be Charlotte's dad. And he got crotched. He got attacked in the crotch by Randy Orton. And they did the light flickering gimmick throughout the night, as if the Retribution was trying to turn the power off all the time. And that's how they hid themselves from not actually having Ric Flair get punted in the head by Randy Orton, which I appreciated because I don't think a 71-year-old man needs to get punted in the head. It doesn't need to happen. So as things move along here, I want to get into more of your questions here. Kyle Pribbis saying, I'm hearing that there's going to be another takeover October 4th. Is that true? I've heard rumblings of that as well, but WWE hasn't confirmed it. That would give them some separation between the two shows. It's been a while since we had In Your House, a long gap here. That would be a short flip over to another show just almost less than 2 months later. I'd be surprised if they went and did that. Because then you're also going to have a WWE payback the week after SummerSlam, which is just an interesting curveball WWE's throwing here. More questions here, guys. I'm trying to keep up with this here. Here we go. Kevin Durgan. Kevin says, does NXT have a good surprise for the mystery third man this week in the triple threat? Well, that has leaked, and I can tell you, if you're a hardcore fan, I think you'll enjoy it. I don't want to spoil it, but I can tell you it's interesting, especially if you've been watching NXT for the better part of a year. It is a guy that I think we haven't seen the ceiling even get touched with yet in WWE, and was a huge, I'll say this, he was a huge foreign name to come to WWE NXT, and I would expect some big things from him in the future. If what we heard from the taping results was correct, that'll happen. Didn't spoil it. I didn't spoil it here. I do want to talk about this. Sean Smith texting about this. A couple of people have asked me about this, about the situation with Chris Jericho and his band Fozzy performing at the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally. I got a couple of different texts about this. And if there'll be any kind of like backlash from that, from AEW for him doing that. Chris Jericho performed with his band in Sturgis. Now, Sturgis was a very controversial event this past week in South Dakota. It's still going on. It's 10 days long. And he performed at a club at about what they described as less than full capacity, and they handed out masks to people that didn't have them. But if you saw pictures of it, didn't seem like social distancing was employed, and it didn't seem like there was much limitations, and Jericho was on stage performing. And there's many doctors and health officials that believe an event with 250,000 people at it from different states driving and flying in is going to be a super spreader for the virus in the United States. And if Chris Jericho is in those circumstances, he's then coming back into the proverbial bubble. If AEW is trying to do one, it's not exactly true. I've heard some people say, "Oh, they have a bubble in Jacksonville, and you're breaking the bubble." That isn't true, because you have guys that are traveling in and out of there all the time. They're just getting tested constantly. So calling it a bubble would not be accurate. So let's give him that. But it doesn't have a great look if you're Chris Jericho and you say you're going to do these shows safely and things don't look safe. I don't hold it against Chris Jericho or his band, because I can tell you, I work in radio, there's many times when bands go to do shows and they think the show is going to be set up a certain way, and it's not set up that way. And that isn't, me giving Chris Jericho the out here. I'm saying I don't think it's fair to put that on him, because I don't know if they control that. That's a lot of the venue controlling that. And I do think there is a way, and the people are going to do these shows. And if they're going to do the shows, at least try and do them safely. I don't know if you can describe that show based on photos that we saw on social media that it was super safe. But I don't know if it'll be any backlash on Chris Jericho for doing this. Because from what we know, this match hasn't been taped yet, coming up this Wednesday, this tomorrow. We're coming to you on Tuesday, the 11th, and he will have a match with Orange Cassidy. I don't know what the circumstances of that match are. Now, obviously, Jericho's going to get tested. I don't think anyone goes out there and performs on television doesn't get tested. But hopefully he's okay and everyone's okay. And I think the backlash against him is a little unnecessary. Let's go into more questions here. Trying to keep up with them. You guys are flying by. I'm running solo here. What do you guys think of this solo thing? If you guys like the solo setup of me doing this, hit the like button on the YouTubes or the Facebooks, wherever you're watching. John Kirby asking this question. I think I kind of have an obvious answer. When will WWE house shows start back up again? These are live events, as a company calls them. So these are non-televised live events. I don't see those happening until there is widespread vaccination across a good portion of the world. You would think in other parts of the world outside of the United States, where the virus is very much, I wouldn't say under control, depends on the region you're talking about, that WWE could go there and do a show. I've heard many fans overseas say, why doesn't WWE come over here and do a show? Well, you just need to read a little bit more in the headlines. Americans are not really allowed to go to a lot of different countries right now. And there's a lot of countries that I think maybe you'd want to go to, and you could have fans at that, and you could have some level of control. The UK trying to do events with masking and testing and trying to get their arts going back up and their arts and entertainment. The government's actually stepped up and funded some things, which kudos to them. But in the United States, not exactly the same case, and you have travel regulations. So widespread vaccination is when you can expect wrestling shows to come back with fans at them. Doing a house show event with no fans at it and you're not taping it for television doesn't seem like it would have much of a point. Keenan Grass with a question here about Alexa Bliss, and she is intertwined, maybe entanglement, that's a popular word, with the storyline between Braun Strowman, the monster, and Bray Wyatt. Do you think Bliss is going to be Sister Abigail? Now, if you follow WWE the last 10 years, the most over kayfabe thing they seemingly have created in the last 10 years is Bray Wyatt, and how he has this cult, and Sister Abigail is this female ghost, and we've seen her, and he's performed as her and worn like a cloth or something, and it was supposed to be, people didn't like it. But WWE's done a lot of retconning with storylines. They did it with The Undertaker a handful of times. I think her as that role, the idea of like a devilish character complementing a big monster, it's over. If you want to see an example of that, look what's happening with Karrion Kross over on NXT. Scarlett Bordeaux kind of as the devil siren that dances around his feet as he comes to destroy the city. That's a beautiful storyline there. There's something there. And they even teased it a little bit on SmackDown. I'm into it. I actually loved it. One of the biggest podcasts we did in the last month in terms of live streams was a show I did right after SmackDown in which Alexa Bliss was attacked very lightly. WWE didn't get any flack for that by the Fiend, Bray Wyatt, him under the monster mask and all that stuff. So could she be the Sister Abigail? Absolutely. If there ever was a chance that a female WWE superstar could take on that role, it would be her. But I wonder how they're going to present it. And maybe it's not Sister Abigail. Maybe it's just something else. It's a love interest for the Fiend. That would be kind of cool. And I do think Alexa is the type of performer with her ability to express so much with her face, and have such a physical presence. Also, she's a petite figure, like it's small, the illusion of innocence, but she can also turn on you and destroy you. That would be fun. I would actually really, really enjoy that angle. I'm not opposed to it. Dawn Marie Riley texting in saying Shayna will win against all the ladies. Shayna Baszler, very successful in Raw Underground, recently took out 3 different women in WWE's new quote-unquote shoot fighting element they've added to Monday Night Raw. And Shayna Baszler, a former UFC fighter, who better to have in there? She looked really, really good. It was the best part of Raw Underground so far for me, outside of these matches I've done with Babatunde. I'm okay with it. I think Raw Underground is developing. I'm not against it. I think it can create some fun new characters, and I like the idea that it's not just people you know, it's some people you don't know. If you're going to do squash matches where someone gets their ass completely kicked and it's a no-name guy, I think this is more entertaining than doing it actually in a ring. And I do think there's more to it. I think this is one of those things. I don't think it's going to be a massively successful thing, but it's already proven that fans have an interest in seeing something different than the Performance Center. And here's a way to do that without actually having to leave or go too far from it and keep our production there and have it work logically. And Shane McMahon, is he the element that makes it work? Someone barking over it and also not having commentary on top of it. It does have a different look. They did take the go-go dancers away from the second week. People didn't like that the first week. I thought that was interesting here. Some more questions here. I'm trying to keep up with him here. Did anybody just see a blank screen but could still hear Kevin? All right, I don't know if that happened to me. Sorry, guys, if you guys are having tech issues with me. I'm scrolling up trying to get a hold of your questions here. Other questions. Is Roman Reigns going to AEW? I can tell you that is not happening. I can confirm to you, no. Roman Reigns, big dog, going to stay with WWE. If he wrestles again, that is where you will see him. Let's see here. Herman texting in. Herman, big fan of the show. Do you see Andrade break away from Zelina and Garza to help Ric Flair? Obviously, Andrade is intertwined romantically with Charlotte Flair, though they've never addressed that on television. And do I see him breaking away from Zelina and Garza to help Ric Flair? No. I see Andrade and Garza staying together as a tag team. I see them maybe even taking those belts at SummerSlam. So that could be a possibility here. Other people, when I brought up Sturgis, they remember Hog Wild and Road Wild. If you guys want to have a great insight into those shows, why don't you go watch our interview, go listen to it with Eric Bischoff. We just taped it this week, and he tells us about how hard those shows were to produce. Those were not easy shows to put on. You're doing them in the open air. You have people revving bikes the whole time. Go watch that interview. Go listen to it. It is in our podcast feed up on our YouTube channel and our Facebook. Bish just giving us the whole dish on that thing. More questions here. I love how this is kind of loose. Are you guys enjoying this format? If you're liking it, give it a thumbs up. I'll do more of these kind of like solo anything shows. I'm not opposed to it. People saying if they ever need a partner or a co-host, I want to do some solo shows with you guys. I'll definitely try and get Robert and the other guys from WrestleZone to join us here as well. Here we go. Glenn Hunt. This is not a confirmed story here. News breaking: WWE Monday Night Raw, SmackDown Friday night, Memphis, Tennessee coming next week. Big announcement coming soon. We don't know anything about that. Don't know anything about that story. I can tell you we haven't heard anything about it. And if we did, we'd hear it directly from WWE. So that's a whole bunch of misinformation until it gets confirmed. Here we go. Here's a question. Nathan Gibson, big old Chicago wrestling friend. Thank you, Gib. How would you compare Impact Wrestling's women's roster to AEW and WWE? Give it up to Impact. They have weathered the storm. They've been back on TV now for a couple months amidst the pandemic. They are taping their shows with no fans, which I think is the only real mistake they're making with it. But Deonna Purrazzo is a huge pickup for them. They already have Jordan Grace. They still have Taya Valkyrie. I mean, they have some very, very strong names that anyone in the wrestling business outside of Impact Wrestling would want on their television show. They have dynamic performers. They've also embraced the idea of doing intergender matches, obviously with Tessa Blanchard, who's no longer with the company. And I do think they treat their women, not to say that WWE or AEW don't, that's a whole other thing. They treat their women in very much an ability to main event shows and still be main players and move the needle. WWE is certainly doing this. There's a lot of female performers featured on this week's Raw and SmackDown. And I think you can say that really the catch-up is on AEW right now. And I don't think with AEW, when you compare the three big televised groups right now, Ring of Honor coming back in a few weeks, that you can say that they're far behind. I mean, you want to rank in terms of how the women are featured on television. I would go number one, WWE, simply because of the time and the feature and the roles and the reactions they're getting online. And then I would go with Impact. Then I would go with AEW. And the reason I'm going to say AEW is in that third slot there is because they have injuries. You know, they have a lot of injuries to key people that they wanted to do something with that aren't there. Yet they're still doing something fun with the Women's Deadly Draw tournament. But that's on YouTube. And I do think a lot of fans wanted that on television. And I don't know if AEW knew that until they put it on YouTube, and now we're locked into putting this on YouTube. I do think at some point you'll see some of those matches from that tournament on TV, hopefully. But, you know, a lot of fans gave AEW a whole lot of backlash last week with the launch of their fan inclusivity program, AEW Heels, which is supposed to be female-focused. And that it was a subscription model, which I don't think they should get backlash for it, but some people were upset about it. And obviously, Brandy Rhodes got into a whole bunch of things with fans online. It was very, very toxic. I just think AEW got bit by the injury bug. A lot of key players for them got hurt. And I don't think that should be held against them. It's just circumstances. COVID-19 is going to shake things up, guys, and it's going to affect how you can bring talent in for these shows. And I don't think I don't think it's bad. I do think they want to do something. Obviously, they're giving them their own tournament and doing a lot of different things with them. But yeah, that's the way I would look at things right now. But it could change. It could change in a week. Things are changing very, very quickly here. Did I read Ric Flair's comment about last night and how he wanted it to go differently? No, Justin, I did not. I need to catch up on that. More questions here. Oh, I like this one. Where do you see the angle with Mandy Rose and Sonya going? Well, I would hope they get some type of match at SummerSlam. This is an angle that I got a lot of reaction when they presented it online a few weeks ago. On air on SmackDown. Very brutal attack by Sonya Deville, cutting some of the hair. Immediately, I thought we're going to get ourselves a hair versus hair match, and I really think that's the way it should go. Now, Mandy Rose is out there sporting much shorter hair. And Sonya Deville is obviously really lighting up the promos. If you told me a year or two ago that Sonya Deville was going to have a really great promo, maybe one of the best promos for the SmackDown side, I would be surprised. Not to say that Mandy Rose isn't trying to do something in her own. She's improved a whole lot in the ring. Certainly has a presence on camera to be able to take it in. That isn't just her attractiveness, her ability to, express a storyline. And I do think this kind of continues on with a lot. This is the biggest storyline, I think, for a lot of casual fans, is the entire romantic angle with Otis and Mandy. That was very, very over going into WrestleMania. Do not forget that. And Sonya Deville played a critical role in that. And now you can kind of drop the other foot with it and do some other things with it and fulfill these characters and raise their stock more. I do think that Mandy and Sonya should get some type of one-on-one match. Otis playing a supporting role would be neat. I'd be into that idea. Let me see here. Who will be... This is Sean Smith. Who will be the first to go through the hockey glass? Well, they've already done that. WWE has the big hockey boards up for protective measures with everything in the Performance Center. They already did this. They did this at the WWE NXT In Your House pay-per-view. If you have not seen that show, go watch it on the network. Keith Lee versus Johnny Gargano. They do it in the match, and it's just awesome. And it looks great. And it's very believable that Keith Lee could put somebody through a hockey board. I was into it. It was one of the more impressive things they've done in the Performance Center. Rather, I believe that was filmed at Full Sail University. Nishad Jawal, I want to bring this up here. The XFL, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, along with his production partner, Danny Garcia, and Redbird Capital. They're a group that put together $15 million and bought the rights to the XFL from Alpha Entertainment when it was auctioned off a week ago. Huge story, very, very big story. And now The Rock has made it public that he is interested in getting XFL games on Fox Sports. Now, Fox Sports has a very large platform. Obviously, they have the Fox Network. They have Fox Sports 1, FXX, and the FXX channel. Obviously, they also have the Fox app as well. Plenty of things to work with there in terms of a platform. And obviously, XFL was killed kind of by COVID-19 and everything there. And then you could talk about all the legalities and different stuff with Vince McMahon. The rumors that Vince would still be involved with this new league as well and own some piece of it. I wouldn't be surprised by that, but we don't know anything about that. What we know now is that The Rock, Danny Garcia, and Redbird are the proprietors of this. They own it, and they're going to do something with it. What teams will be involved, we don't know. Will I see more teams added to it? I think they would stick with what they have, maybe change one or two teams based on the market evaluation. But I would think that this is they're going to see this on TV in the next few years. I don't know if you'll see it on TV as soon as next year. I think that's a little lofty of a goal. But it's interesting. There is a demand for out-of-season football. There is. College football is huge. We just learned today the Big Ten is going to postpone their season. So I don't know if they'll add more teams, but it would be surprising if they didn't. There's some major markets that aren't represented by the XFL right now, specifically Chicago, where I am. But I would like to see more smaller markets, like different towns that are medium level. They've never had a pro football, but love themselves some college football and would go for an XFL team, Omaha, towns like that. I think that would be kind of cool if they actually went in that direction. Here we go. Do you think Otis will cash in the briefcase, Money in the Bank briefcase at SummerSlam? Certainly there would be a time on a big show to do a lot of crazy things. I think SummerSlam is primed to have a lot of wild things happen on it. You have Retribution lurking in the background. He has the briefcase. Are we going to get those matches? Is the show going to be outside? There's a lot of questions about SummerSlam that are kind of hanging over the event, and we're not too far away from it here. So I think he is a guy, unfortunately, that is going to try to cash in, but is not going to be successful. I'm not taking anything away from Otis Dozovich. I think the guy is a talented character who's really connected with the audience. He's a fun character. And I don't think everyone who has the briefcase needs to become champion. I think that is the illusion of having the briefcase. He has it. They've teased him doing something with it. But Braun Strowman's really locked into this thing with The Fiend. Wouldn't it be crazy if Otis tried to cash in on The Fiend, who just won the title? That would be crazy. That would be wild. But I don't know if it's going to happen at SummerSlam. I don't know for sure. What would be if he tried to do it and his shot just got blocked? Like, get that out of here. What are you doing? You ain't going to cash in on me. I think something like that could happen here. Other people with different takes here chiming in here. Other people think the XFL needs a Canadian team. Miguel A. Flores following up on a storyline here on Monday Night Raw. Who poisoned Montez Ford? Selena Vega and Bianca Belair had a match last night. Bianca Belair is Montez Ford's legit wife, and she, of course, came out in her initial beef up to Monday Night Raw with the Street Profits, but then they kept it separate. Now they're back together, and it's odd that they haven't just stayed together. But she's defending her husband's honor. He was poisoned last week and could not compete valiantly in a match. He lost that match. So who poisoned him? And she immediately thought it was Zelina Vega. I do think something could be revealed sometime around SummerSlam that someone else poisoned him. Maybe someone from his past. Bum, bum, bum. That'd be wild, wouldn't it? I don't know. I don't know who poisoned him, but it'll be interesting to find out. We enjoy questions. Who's under the mask? Who did this? We're asking fun questions in WWE overall. When are they going to cash in? That's a good time to ask those questions. The casual fan has a lot of questions to ask. The hardcore fan has a lot of questions to answer themselves. And I don't think those things are bad. And everyone's going to say I'm horny for WWE. So there we go. More questions here as you guys kind of stroll along here. Someone asking, would you be interested in seeing Randy Orton versus Charlotte Flair down the road? I've heard a lot of fans say that Charlotte is so dominating with the women. We haven't seen Charlotte in a few weeks. She's off, I believe took an elective surgery and, took some time off. And Charlotte was on TV quite a bit, right? So a lot of people want to know, would she be a fair competitor in an intergender match? Now, WWE is floated the idea of doing some intergender action. Just about over a year ago, they had Nia Jax enter the men's Royal Rumble, get an RKO from Randy Orton. And they floated that idea, and then didn't completely follow up on it. People maybe didn't bite at it the way they wanted. Charlotte, though, is a legit athlete, a stud, and I would say one of the best wrestlers in the world right now. Absolutely. People don't want to like that. People want to hear that. Charlotte is somebody that people want to root against quite a bit. I've seen so much of her. But wait for the pop when she comes back. Just wait. You're going to look at your Twitter feed. People are going to be excited that she's back. And then people are going to bitch because they want to bitch. And I think with Charlotte, though, she's already proven on the shows that she's on that she can steal a show. She can steal almost any show that she's on. One-on-one with the time, Charlotte Flair are going to steal that show. And her with Randy Orton, another guy who deceptively people want to hate Randy Orton, but that's the idea. You're not supposed to like the heels. Do you guys remember that? We forgot that part. And so I think Charlotte Flair and Randy Orton could have a great match, but I just don't know if a casual audience, a WWE audience, is going to embrace the idea of a man versus a woman in a straight up one-on-one match in 2020. I'm iffy on it. I'm on the fence. Do I think it could work? Physically, yeah. Charlotte would look imposing and could mess up Randy Orton's day if she wanted to. But are fans going to bite? I don't know. If fans are into it, it'll happen. But I don't know if there's a demand there for anything like that. Oh, big fan of the show. James Espanto Fernando Taguay. He says, any updates on Tessa? And by Tessa, you mean Tessa Blanchard. Tessa was the Impact World Champion She was the first woman to win a world title in a major wrestling promotion. Not just a women's world title, but a world title. And she defeated Sami Callihan for that. Quite a crowning moment. Amidst some very controversial things outside of the ring that she was accused of just before that match was supposed to go on at the Hard to Kill pay-per-view earlier this year. Then Impact went with her. I almost said TNA. Impact went with her as their main star. And then the COVID outbreak hit, and Tessa's contract was coming up, and they couldn't get Tessa to tape promos from the remote location that she was in with her hubby-to-be, Daga, also an Impact Wrestling star. And then they release her from her deal, and they strip her of the title, and they have to crown a new champion at Slammiversary. So, what is the future of Tessa Blanchard? I would say Tessa Blanchard becomes maybe, possibly a player post-pandemic. If she's in Mexico in a remote location and has gotten, quite internet dark, really, about things, I don't see it. I don't see her doing anything until post-pandemic, which could be sometime next year. And we'll see where we are on that side of things. It's very disappointing how those things went. It's certainly a moment in history, but a disappointing one at that. Other people texting in here. Preston Thomas says, I want to see Dabba-Kato versus Brock Lesnar. You know what to see. You want to see it, I think is what you meant to say, Preston. Dabba-Kato is the large fellow, formerly known as Babatunde, who's been in the WWE developmental system for quite some time. And this large fellow has been wrecking people last 2 weeks on Monday at Raw's Underground. They're kind of like shoot fighting place with no ropes backstage at Shane McMahon hosts. And he's a very, really, really big guy. There's a formidable character. He has that turn your head in an airport, larger than life factor that a lot of wrestling folks say you need to look larger than life, and he has that. And Brock Lesnar's always had that. I think that could be an interesting matchup, two Clash of Champions. But I think the real match that people want to see that could be spurred out of Raw Underground, that would have two guys with legitimate fighting backgrounds in combat sports, would be Brock Lesnar versus Bobby Lashley. Maybe Dabba-Kato is the one who kind of gets those guys to that match. But I think that would be a great one. And I think it'd be a huge match to do in Raw Underground. I think that'd be the biggest match you could do there is Brock Lesnar versus Bobby Lashley. I love this question. I just wrote a article about this. It's up now at WrestleZone.com. Pat McAfee. He is the sports talk loudmouth, the former Indianapolis Colts kicker, two-time All-Pro. He is the host of the nationally syndicated Westwood One radio program, a very, very successful podcast. I enjoy his stuff on YouTube, but man, did he get under people's skin this week. He got under people's skin. He went for it big time on last week's NXT. One of the most talked about angles of the week was him appearing. He's going to, clear the air with Adam Cole, and they were cool. And Adam Cole came on his radio show and knocked down a mic and went off on him because, Pat McAfee made these passive-aggressive jokes about him being small and tried to be like Shawn Michaels. He comes over to NXT. They welcome him back. Obviously, Pat McAfee's under contract with WWE in some way. I know they had a deal and they filmed some content last year. He's been on the kickoffs. He was at WrestleMania last year. So, what are you going to do with Pat McAfee? He's going to have a match with Adam Cole. It's crazy. Pat McAfee posted a video of himself training in the ring, taking those front flip back bumps, doing moonsaults on the crash pads. I wonder what he's going to do. Now, here's the thing. On his most recent show on Monday, I haven't heard what he said today. On his radio show, he said, I'm not going to go in there and look bad. I'm going to go in there with the mindset to win, and I'm not going to embarrass myself like the SNL guys. Remember the two folks from Saturday Night Live, Colin Jost and Michael Shea? They appeared in the Battle Royal, and some people felt underwhelmed by their appearance. I thought they were fine. They were there to do jokes and stuff like that and be silly. And he also brought Tyson Fury, who took on Braun Strowman in a match in Saudi Arabia, and he didn't think that was great. I thought it was fine in terms of a non-wrestler being in the ring. But obviously, when you have an outsider getting in the ring, there is this idea of, are you going to embarrass yourself physically? Are you not going to look like a pro wrestler? Are you not going to look like a WWE superstar? And Pat McAfee is a guy who has a legitimate sports background. He looks like $1 million. He says he still has legs. He has legs like a Greek god, but the upper body of a teenage boy coming into his body or something like that. I think I think Pat McAfee's going to impress some people. That's what I think is going to happen. I think this is going to be something where people leave it going like, oh boy, okay, all right, and I don't know. I'm on the fence about who wins this. Coming up at TakeOver 30 on the 22nd, I am on the fence that Pat McAfee can win this match with the circumstances of an undisputed era, with their back against the wall. They just lost a tag team match. Kyle O'Reilly just got back into the group in this pandemic time. Adam Cole just lost the belt to Keith Lee. They used to be a dominating group. They used to have all the titles. Now they don't have any of the titles. And now they're taking on this guy from the sports talk world. I wonder what's going to happen with the Undisputed Era in this whole thing. I think that is the more compelling, needle-moving thing that could affect the outcome of this match, actually, too. Am I thinking someone's going to turn on him? Not exactly. But I think that unrest in the faction could lead to a shocking upset when Pat McAfee takes out maybe the greatest wrestler of our generation in Adam Cole. We'll find out on the 22nd. I think it's a compelling storyline in terms of bringing celebrities. I think this is a way to do it that's smart. And also, you're not supposed to like him. I like that he's a heel. Remember when they brought in Floyd Mayweather and they tried to make him a babyface? It just didn't connect. And eventually they realized, like, okay, Big Show should be the babyface. And, Floyd Mayweather with his millions of dollars, he should be the heel. And they figured it out and they corrected course. I liked Pat McAfee's a loudmouth, okay? He's a big bro. He's got bro-like fans, all right? And he comes into our wrestling world, tries to tell us all our sports entertainment geeks how to act. Oh, no, we ain't going to have that. That's a real angle. And him against Adam Cole and him calling him small, smart. I like it. I think it's a good idea. All right. Are we going to see a Scott Steiner come back in WWE? Al Summers. Al, I'm going to unfortunately tell you that Big Papa Pump ain't going to come back to WWE anytime soon. Big Papa Pump, Scott Steiner, I believe, had to close down his Shoney's restaurant franchise recently. I'm sorry to hear that. But a guy who, obviously, with his brother Rick, would have a spot in the WWE Hall of Fame. I think that's what you would see him. But, Scott's been very vocal about not wanting that, not being happy about WWE. He's a guy who definitely will say what he thinks and does not toe the quote-unquote company line. I don't think he was happy with his run in the early 2000s in WWE, post-WCW. I don't see that happening. Not gonna happen. Here's a question. What did I think of Dominic Mysterio? And the photos of him that were brutal after Monday Night Raw this week. He got lit up. Our very own Tyler Treese described it as the passion of Dominic Mysterio. Dominic Mysterio signs his WWE Superstar contract. This one's been coming for quite some time. He's been seconding his father, the legendary Rey Mysterio. Rey, quote unquote, lost his eye, or his eye severely damaged at the recent Extreme Rules horror show pay-per-view, and fans not happy about that. But the storyline between Rey Mysterio and the foe, Seth Rollins, has been going on for quite some time, and Dominic Mysterio has been deeply involved in it. This is the test. Can Dominic Mysterio, a relative newcomer who's been very physical, been around wrestling his whole life, he was on TV when he was a little boy. Remember that? Remember Eddie versus Rey for the custody of Dominic Mysterio? I think it showed that Dominic will take the beats, the lumps to do this. My interview in October of last year with, I believe over a year ago, with Rey Mysterio, he lays it out. You can check out the interview. It's in our podcast. So you just search Rey Mysterio Wrestlezone. It's there. It's also on YouTube as well. Rey Mysterio makes it very, very clear that he wants his career to end with WWE. I know some people are talking about he's working without a contract right now, but he wants his career to end with WWE, and he wants to have a significant moment involving his son to end his career. This guy's been wrestling since he was a teenage boy. He's gone through dozens of surgeries, dozens of different times on the table, waiting to get back in the ring. Different contracts in and out of WWE, WCW, ECW, around the world, the Lucha shows, Japan, all of it. I think the crowning moment of his career would be to set up his son to be a huge star. Now, there's some fans that say, oh, he doesn't have the charisma, he can't do it. I say give him a shot. This kid's been around it long enough, wants to do it, obviously can do a handful of different things. They're alluding in this Raw angle that the match won't be a full-fledged match. It'll be a street fight of some kind. But that kid took a whooping. And I thought there was another great moment I saw online here in terms of an observation for when Ryan sat in Pro Wrestling Sheet. He said, what would the reaction be like if he took that beating with kendo sticks, lighting up his body, making his chest and his back look like raw hamburger meat? If he took that beating in front of an audience, I think I can tell you that Dominic is very much someone that people connect with, especially young Latin American fans. And I can say this from being at Survivor Series in November in Chicago. When Dominic came out to the ring to help his father in his match with Brock Lesnar, the place blew up. Dominic is someone you saw on television. If you're a lifelong WWE fan, you saw him as a child. Now here he is as an adult, a man fighting for the legacy of his family. You can't recreate that. You can only do that with people that legitimately have those backgrounds, and you get that emotional teeth into it. And I do think that will mean something when he can get in the ring and have these big matches. And I do think that name means a lot to a lot of fans. I think Dominic can have something special with Seth Rollins, a guy who definitely you want to be in the ring. You mentioned Pat McAfee being in there with Adam Cole. Very, very strong. The challenge isn't, can I have a great match with a great wrestler? It's, can I have a great match with somebody who's a relatively new wrestler that has some name value or has some character value? Two different matches, two different challenges, and we'll see how both those lay out SummerSlam weekend here. One more question while people are hopping in here. People ask me about the original. Speaking of Rey Mysterio and his eye, when does the original cut of Rollins versus Mysterio end up on the Hidden Gems section of the WWE Network? Man, Hidden Gems is a fun thing on the WWE Network. I don't know where that went. I know WWE is promoting it for a long time as a fun part of the network. I thought it was one of the best things on the networks. We unearthed this match you've never seen, but here's two names or matches in black and white. Oh boy, I love those matches from like the 50s and 60s. That's what the network's for, right? Those deep cuts. But I don't think those intend to like keep or add new subscribers. Those are just fun things that fill up the network that WWE owns and they can put out there. But for me, I love that stuff. I think it's great, especially an individual match. I'd like a little bit more introduction. People tell me the history of it. I'm a dork. I want to know that stuff. When is a match like the Rey Mysterio I versus I Seth Rollins match can end up on there? The thing is with the pandemic time, I think after this, we'll be able to explore this time in wrestling and look at it with a completely different perspective because you're looking at wrestling, AEW included, Impact as well. You're looking at wrestling that can be taped in a completely isolated circumstance where you can tape multiple endings, you can do multiple cuts, you can do multiple things, and other people would say WWE shouldn't have too many cuts, they have too many angles, too much editing, some people even said that Dexter Lumis got removed from the NXT TakeOver match coming up on the 22nd. He got injured in a triple threat match that he won to get in there, and he's out of it because he had an injury in the match, and they edited out a point where he had the injury. You can see the cut if you actually go look for it. I don't mind that stuff. I think it's interesting if somebody brings it up to me. But until I know it's there, I don't really care. I know some people say it's out there, but I don't really care unless I know it's for real. And the same way of who was the wrestler that was in Tom McGee was supposed to be the next big Hulk Hogan, and he had this match with Bret Hart, and it was great. And they unearthed it and they put it on the network, right? I thought that was entertaining. I thought it was great. They went and found a guy and interviewed him, and he was supposed to be the next big thing, and it didn't happen. But that's okay. Go look up my friend Ross Berman from WrestleZone, our New Japan expert. He did a great song about Tom McGee, performed it at StarCast, almost a year ago now. Thank you guys so much for checking out the show today. I know it's solo. How do I love doing the show? How you doing? Love the show. Or Gerardo texting in. How am I doing? I'm doing okay, Gerardo. And I just want to end on this. This is a great point. I'm doing good, and I hope you're doing good. Wherever you're watching, wherever you're listening, I hope you're doing good. This is me talking about wrestling by myself for nearly 50 minutes. And if you listen to this whole thing, God bless you. Sometimes these shows are hard to get on air and hard to get out there. And I'm going to go into the questions after the show is not live anymore. I'm still going to answer those questions, interact with all you guys. I just want to say how thankful I am, and especially speaking for everyone at WrestleZone, Everyone's lives are different right now. Everyone's lives are very, very different. The civil unrest, the COVID-19 outbreak, it has changed the way we consume media, the way we live our lives from when we go to bed and when we wake up in the morning. And I just want you guys all out there to stay safe and wear that mask, wash those hands, keep that distance. WrestleMania will be there. The shows will be there. We can get back to life when it's safe to do it. But we just got to be patient with each other. Okay. Get out there and do the right thing by your neighbor. And that's all we got to do, man. We got to get that hot tag and get through this thing. We're just waiting for it. And when we can, it'll be worth it. And I just want to say how thankful I am of you guys supporting the show. There's a lot of different options for wrestling media. There's a lot of different places that make great stuff, but you chose and you watched me. And I'm thankful for that. I really, really am. Very, very grateful. We will return tomorrow night after AEW Dynamite. Big episode there with Jericho and Orange Cassidy. We'll have another big episode of NXT, and we'll have your comments, just like they are here, live on the screen. So with us on the podcast side of things, once again, go check out our interviews with Eric Bischoff, Ariane Andrews, and Terry Funk. He spoke to us for over an hour. You egg-sucking dogs. Go check it out, all right? It's available. It's free. No Patreon, no paywall, no ads, all for free. Top quality wrestling content. Go get it. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. I love you. I miss you. I'm excited to hug you guys when we all get our shots and we can do that. Just remember to enjoy wrestling.